How are you all? Are you guys fine? Good evening. Okay, today we are starting with the overview part or the overall part of IELTS Writing Task 1. Anyone new today? Okay, so as I told you all earlier, that there are parts to your writing task 1 or a specific format um, in which you have to first introduce the topic sentence or paraphrase the topic sentence which comes under the introduction part. And secondly, again, in the introduction part, there is another thing which is called overview or writing an overall of the question. Okay, and then you write the body paragraphs. So today we are going to discuss about overall or overview part of IELTS Task 1. Okay, so what is writing an overview? So writing an overview means reporting the highest and the lowest data or reporting anything that stands out. Okay, so what whenever you get the question and you have finished paraphrasing the topic sentence, now you look uh, at the data and you see what are the significant things or what do you see with your eyes whenever you see the data at first, right? So you make an overview of this, okay, this question over here, whatever is given in the data, you're going to report or mention the things that are significant or that stands out. So if you see in this question, you see that there are four categories. One is art gallery, another one is pavilion, another one is pyre, and another is festival, right? So all of this, there is a trend, okay, for all of these categories, there is a trend. So if you look at this, The art gallery, if you see, it has over the period it has decreased, right, from 1980 to 2010. So in this part, in the overview part, you're again not going to discuss the things in detail. Okay, you're not going to mention the numbers, like 40%, 30%, 20%, or you're not going to mention each year like 1980, 1985, in 1990, something like that. Okay, so what you are going to do is you are going to see the trend of the data itself. So what's happening over here? If you see, so jhotte rakeri, what you see in the question, okay, so you're going to write those things. Now if you see in the art gallery from 1980 to 2010, when we uh, see overall, it's been the art gallery, it has been decreasing, right? From in 1980, it was more, while in 2010, it has decreased, right? Now, again, there is another thing that has decreased. So, the another thing is festival, right? If you see festival over here, this line over here, so this has also decreased over the period, right? Yes, it has not decreased much, but if you see, it has decreased. Now, those are the two categories that has decreased, right? Now, another one, pavilion and pyre, these two, there has there has an increment. Okay, so there is an increment, and pavilion over here, if you see, in 1980 it was around 24%, while in 2010 it's above 30%, right? So again, the pavilion has also increased, right? The another one is pyre. Another one is pyre. If you see pyre as well, in 1980 it was 10%, while in 2010 it has gone above 20%, right? So when you categorize this thing, pavilion and pyre, it has increased, while art gallery and festival, it has decreased, right? So the changes that are seen in the data are this. So you are going to surfacely describe what's happening in this data. Okay, so every time while you start describing the trend, you try to group the data, right? So grouping the data is very important. So yes, I grouped the data just now. So for art gallery and festival, I told that okay, so this has been increased, while pavilion and pyre, this has decreased. But every time there might not be uh, similar trends data, right? So now art gallery and festival is a similar trend data, while pavilion and pyre is also a similar trend data in itself, right? So you try to group first, okay? You group, first of all, group the data and mention the significant things only, okay? You are going to describe it surfacely. Now, whenever you start writing an overview or the overview paragraph, after you have paraphrased the topic sentence, you're going to start the overall section or the overview part in the second line, okay, the next line, and you're always going to start with overall, it is clear that, overall, it is evident that, overall, it can be seen that, all right, or you can just write overall, overall, comma, it is clear that, or it is evident that, it can be seen that, or only overall. Got it? Any confusion till now? So you're reporting the main findings in the overview part, right? You're not going into details, you're not describing the numbers, you're not making comparisons, mentioning the numbers, right? You're just going to mention the significant changes that are seen, and you're just going to start with overall it is clear that, it is evident that, it can be seen that, blah blah blah, right? Or you can just write overall. So let's see in this question. Okay, if you look at this, overall it is clear that the percentage visiting Pavilion and Pyre increased over the period, while the proportion of travelers to other attractions decreased, right? So simple. So you're just going to describe the data surfacely. So it is grouped in this sentence as well. Overall, it is clear that now Pavilion and Pyre, we told they are increased. We made a group, and again for other attractions like art gallery or festival, we told that they have decreased, right? So in this way, you're going to write overall. Now, if there was a bar graph yesterday, maybe, right? Okay. So if you look at this question, what can you see? So is the question visible to you? Question देखिराख्नु भएको छ? Zoom it a bit. Is it okay now? Okay. So here, if you see, different data is given for different continents, right? Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, North America, and you can see that in 1950 it was a bit less, and for all the countries, while in 2007 it has increased a little, and in while we project things in 2030 it has increased. So here if you see, overall the percentage of people who lived in urban areas increased from 1950 to 2007. From 1950 to 2007, if you see, it was increased, right? Now, also, it is forecasted that more people are likely to live in the cities in the future. Right? Again, what did we say? Okay, so I'm लेखिरहेको छु यहाँ 1950 बाट 2007 सम्म जाँदाखेरि we see it has increased, right? The people living in the urban areas, and also for the future, it is forecasted that more people are living in the future as well, right? So this way, you're not going to mention 29, 49, 60 million people or something like that. In Africa, in Asia, in Europe, you are not going to go in detail, right? You're not going to include numbers. Just jhatta heर्दाखेरि what do you see? You only describe that. So let's see another question as well. Mm, okay, maybe this. Okay, this is a line graph as well. So in this line graph, if you see, there are different categories of finances that was uh, finances for a authority or a government body in New Zealand, and its rates and revenue, user charges, borrowings, grants, and subsidies. The amount they are spending, or the amount that is allocated, or the finances that is uh, projected, are given over here. So if you see rates, revenue, and user charges, right? It's increasing from 2012 to 2022. If you see, there is a massive increase for both of them. While for borrowings and grants and subsidies, there is fluctuations and they are lower. 2022 सम्म आउँदाखेरि पनि they are lower, right? So how do we mention this? Overall, it is clear that rates, revenue, and user charges are predicted to increase over the period, while borrowings and grants and subsidies are likely to remain much lower, right? So, this way, you're going to uh, group the data. You see over here rates, revenue, and user charges, and others like borrowing and grants and subsidies. You mention it in another line. Okay, got it? Any confusion till now? So यसमा हामी डिटेलमा जाँदैनौँ है. We are just going to describe something surfacely. हामी surfacely describe गरेर हुन्छौँ केही कुरा, right? Okay. Now let's see how you guys write an overview or an overall, right? So I'm going to give you a question. It's a bar graph question here. No, so you. Okay. For this question, uh, you paraphrase the topic sentence and then you write the overall. Right? Let's see. Just take 7 to 8 minutes. Eh? No more than that. For your introduction part, you're just going to spend like 6 7 minutes because body paragraphमा अलिकति बढी लेख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ है. Let's try this. First of all, paraphrase the topic sentence just like I told you yesterday, and then you write the overall. So you can start with overall, it is clear that, overall, it is evident that, overall, it can be seen that, or you can just write overall. Okay, and comma after overall, please. Overall पछि चाहिँ comma दिनुहोस्. Like to try the please, everyone. Okay, the bar graph depicts the expenses in five categories. Five categories. 90,004 countries. Language surveys. Overall, it is evident, or on the overall, major expenses in these four countries are in housing, less minimum in healthcare and clothing. The column graph displays the spending patterns across five key sectors in States, Canada, and New Zealand. Overall, it's patterns in housing, food, and transport. Okay. Good deep. Given bar graph mentions the given bar graph mentions data of mentions data of 2009 where urban cities. Uh, it's not cities, it's countries. United States shares the income sources in five different categories. Overall, it's clear that housing accounted for the largest share of spending in all, while healthcare and clothing received the smallest proportion. In addition, state and lower in clothing and healthcare over the time. Okay, Yagiraz, first go. ठीक सा है तेरे first को जो अलिगढ़ मिलाओ ना second को ठीक सा. The given bar diagram illustrates the proportion of expenses in five most important of varieties varieties only million important varieties means uh various मानना हो जाएगा varieties से की को varieties right of four different countries namely UK. It is clear that highest expenses in all countries were made in housing, whereas lowest expenses were made in facilities in all countries except clothing in the United States. Good. In which, okay, the paragraph presents a comparison of consumer spending patterns across five categories in four different countries in 2009. Well, it can be seen that housing was the biggest area of spending in all four countries, while healthcare and clothing made up the smallest share than any other nation, whereas the United States had the highest spending on housing. Good, Usha. The bar diagram indicates how giant nations like US, Canada, and Japan expenditures were. So make sure the bar diagram indicates how giant and Japan expenditure. Mm. The only millionaire Subiksha, that the bar diagram indicates how giant nations like US, Canada, Japan expenditure were on uh, Japan's. So we're in 2009. Okay, how giant nation Japan shared their expenses in 2009 in different categories or in different categories, whatever. Overall, it is clear that food, housing, transportation, healthcare, and clothing have gradually increased expenditure in 2009. However, a slight decrease in expenses has been recorded in the UK in the same year. Significant कुरा मात्रै है. उम्, कुन चाहिँमा बढी अलिकति एक्सपेन्सेस छ कुन चाहिँमा कम एक्सपेन्सेस छ त्यो कुरा सिग्निफिकेन्ट कुराहरू मात्रै मेन्सन गर्दाखेरि बेटर भयो. ओके एन्सर कसरी लेखेको छ एकचोटि यहाँ हेरौँ. ओभरअल इट इज क्लियर द्याट maximum proportion of budget was allocated on housing by all the given four nations, while least money was spent on healthcare by these countries except USA, in which clothing area got least preference. ओके सो तपाईँहरूले लेखेको पनि राम्रो छ तर कतिपयमा चाहिँ एक दुईजनाको चाहिँ अलिकति नमिलेको जस्तो भयो कुनै कुनै पार्ट कसैको प्याराफ्रेजिङमा अलिकति मिलाएको छैन कसैको ओभरअलमा मिलाएको छैन तर नाइस ट्राई ओके बुझ्नुभयो कसरी लेख्ने ओभरअल So you try to relate the data as well है comparison पनि हुनु पर्यो जहिले पनि डेटाहरू बिचमा र एकअर्कालाई एउटा डेटालाई अर्कोसँग रिलेट गर्न पनि ट्राई गर्नु पर्यो Yes, Usha, it's fine. Here, is it compulsory to mention names of those countries? It's not compulsory. It's not compulsory to um, name the countries, right? सबैले किन एन्सर नपठाउनु भएको छुट्टै निम्ता गर्नुपर्ने तपाईँहरूलाई I didn't get answers from Swagat, Sushmita, Bachelal, Arsenal, Pavindra, anyways. Okay. Let's see another question. Okay. Interesting question. अब combined question दिँदैछु है तपाईँहरूलाई दुईटा combination भएको question. Let's try one of this and then okay. हेर्नुहोस् त the chart below shows हो है यो and हो है यो यहाँ अलिकति मिस्टेक छ okay shows and culture and education in 1995 and 2005 and the number of people participating in arts event in the same year summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant ल यसको तपाईँहरू प्यारा के अरे प्याराफ्रेजिङ र ओभरअल लेख्नलाई ट्राई गर्नुहोस् त ओके यो समटाइम्स कम्बिनेसन अफ यो चार्ट्सहरू आउन सक्छ है सो इन दिस यु गेटिङ a pie two pie charts and then one bar graph right so sometimes a line graph and a bar graph sometimes a line graph and a pie chart right sometimes a pie chart and a table, or a line chart and a table, line graph and a table. So combination ma questions pani auna सक्छ है. So combinations को questions आयो भनेदेखि चाहिँ you should be showing relation uh, with both the charts है. यहाँनिर अब पाई चार्ट अब पाई चार्ट मात्रै डिस्क्राइब गर्ने होइन कि पाई चार्ट र बार ग्राफसँगको रिलेसन पनि मेन्सन गरेर तपाईँले ओभरअल लेख्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. कम्प्यारिजन गर्नु पर्यो, सिग्निफिकेन्ट कुराहरू तिनीहरूको लेख्नु पर्यो. Let's try this.